Hello, welcome to another Critical EDH video. My name's Eric. I'm here with the other CDH members.
My name is Jason.
I'm Logan.
And then we have a special guest today, Jay.
Hi, I'm Jay, and I play a lot of Shorkai and just Azorius piles, really.
And then, Logan, why don't you talk about what we're going to talk about today?
So, I think the three of us and Jay, none of us really play TNT, Thrasios, Tymna. Mm-hmm. And we all play Tymna decks, which is mostly T and K. I play some Thrasios decks. And we have been looking at this list and saying, like, I think it could be done a little better, or maybe in our own style. So I think today we're just going to try to put that together and see what we come up with as a group.
Heck yeah. The goal for today's video is there will be a definitive Critical EDH TNT list.
The best that ever was.
I think one of us, we should probably take it to like a local tournament or something, just like a small one, and see how we do. But
Not it.
Not yet.
not it. Watch out, fishbowl. I'm coming at you. So we've already got some cards pulled up in Moxfield.
Yeah, we'll switch over here so that.
While we could have started from scratch, a lot of the first ones would have been kind of gimmies. But even before we even started the video, we were already starting to disagree about some of the cards in here. So I think one of the first things we wanted to talk about is, it's TNT. Do we run Talisman and Talisman? Both of them? Neither of them?
I think there's an argument to run these because they get doubled up by Kinnan or plus.
Are we on Kinnan? Is that what we're gonna do?
Yeah, there's a Basalt Monolith in the main board, and it's an A plus B combo.
Well, it doesn't have to be, though.
I think Kinnan's a busted card, so we should be playing it.
Pretty good magic card, yeah.
All right. You heard it here. Kinnan going in.
All right.
You can do this, Moxfield. There we go. Heck yeah.
First creature added. Let's go.
We did it. Okay, so I think I like putting both talismans in. I think isn't one of the strong points of having Thrasios that you can kind of afford to like just take that ramp to nowhere, and it's not as punishing because at the very least you'll get some lands or some cards out of it.
Yeah, usually you just like bluff interaction, and then on end step you activate Thrasios if you don't have to use that mana, and then you're advancing your board in terms of a land, or you're just giving yourself a card from your deck.
Okay. Any disagreements? Talismans?
There's nothing here for me. Like, honestly, in most decks, I feel like 3 to 4 like 2-mana rocks has usually been a standard, and like there's pretty much no reason to deviate from here, I think.
I think that we're on the blue and the like the blue black and the blue green. I don't think there's a reason to run the blue white or the black green. I think curiosity and dominance are pretty much the most powerful in these color options.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the colors of the run, we should double check the color identity of the deck just to make sure that it's split across. I mean, 13% of it.
Oh, come on.
Maybe we should be on black.
All right, we don't need to look at this.
Okay, let's look at the lands.
Are there any artifacts that we're missing right now that we need to add or consider? Because like I think we really probably need the One Ring, which is not there.
Wishclaw Talisman.
Wishclaw. Oh, here we go.
The One Ring.
Wishclaw and One Ring.
Wishclaw Talisman. Is TNT on Birthing Pod?
It can be. Some builds are because you can pod Thrasios into Derevi and then untap the pod and then pod away Derevi for a Hazel's Brewmaster.
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do we want to run both One Rings or just the artifact one? We could.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
No One Ring to rule them all.
Okay.
I think the only other artifact I might consider, but probably not in this 4-color list, is Imposter Mech. But I don't think there's really quite room for it. That seems like a low-color card to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like our 103rd best card in the deck, but there's only 98 that can go into it.
It has a niche for like stealing like a certain like other TNT's piece, or just like a Kinnan creature, because Kinnan plays a lot of those, but it's not something that I just like immediately would throw in.
It's also so good into OBM, but you're right. I do think that like in 4 colors, it's going to end up like being a pretty tight list.
100% agree.
So do we want to be on Birthing Pod? Thoughts?
We can add that later if we decide that there's room.
I'm personally not a Birthing Pod enjoyer because I feel like it just attracts so much attention that people start whipping out the counterspells sort of immediately for it. But I don't know.
No, that makes sense. I also don't like that. Like, I think we're in a very flash heavy meta, in the fact that it can only be activated at sorcery speed.
It does feel bad.
That part really hurts.
I think it like forces you into play patterns that you kind of don't want to be
Before
in.
we get into lands, speaking of flash, what sort of flash effects do we need to be on?
I think we need to be on at least High Fate Trickster, because it enables you to do both the creatures and all the non-creature spells. It's also a 4-drop, which is perfect because you activate Thrasios for 4, so you can just bluff that you're activating Thrasios when you're actually just flashing in a High Fate Trickster on end step.
TNT is also very much a creature deck, so like if we're gonna pick one effect, like High Fae makes more sense than Flood Caller. So like that's definitely the first one.
I mean, I imagine that typically you're going to want to be on at least 2, right? Because we're in a singleton format. So if you only have like one version of a card in your deck, you kind of have no versions of it.
Let's kind of go over the ones that see play. So we've got High Fate Trickster, which is a 4-mana creature that allows us to play anything at flash speed.
Anything.
Valley Flood Caller is a 3-mana creature that allows us to play non-creatures at flash speed. Born Upon a Wind, which is an instant for 2 mana, allows us to play anything at flash speed that turn if it resolves.
Yep.
And then Emergence Zone, which is a land. Jason hates Alchemist's Refuge, but I think it's okay.
Well, he's not denying it.
And then also, obviously, we have Leyline of Anticipation, which is a 4-mana enchantment. We can play it as enchantment, or if we pre-game it, then it's free.
What about Tidal Barracuda?
All right. Anyway.
All right. Anyways,
That's a great card to play if you want to draw the game.
I think I would be tempted. I think you make a really, really good argument for High Fae. I almost would be tempted to do Valley Flood Caller over Born, just because it is also an infinite mana like generator, and we have Thrasios. But
it has synergy with Retraction Helix and Vanishing Knack, where you can give it or one of your birds, otters, rats, and there's a 4th type too. I don't remember. You just give it
Frogs.
My bad.
Yeah, the resident Glar player.
How could you forget his moistness?
All right. Well, the other thing is that Flood Caller does have I think, a more important synergy with what's the 3-mana Enduring Vitality.
Oh,
Because then you can tap the Flood Caller for mana.
I don't
and
think
then
we're playing
it
Elk
untaps.
in this deck though. I don't think it's good enough in this deck.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So I do agree with the point of Flood Caller. Like, you could run the Knack combo, but I don't know if that's necessary. So let's start with the good ones, which are High Fae. I think Born is an uncuttable card at the moment.
I think it's pretty decent.
it's
Well,
That's how
it's
you spell
decent, but like, you played in all your decks.
Okay.
It's uncuttable, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
It can't be that bad.
I like the
Yeah, 2-mana cycle.
Oh, let's put Ash Barons in. I like the idea.
Stay on target.
I like the idea of not putting Valley Flood Caller in, because I mean, I think this deck has so much capacity for interaction. We don't really want to be on Retraction Helix and stuff.
We're low on we're high on colors, which means we're low on slots. So every slot is a bit more valuable and a bit less flexible. So
I agree.
The deeper you get into the color pie, we need to just be running the strongest of every single color we can.
You started the conversation about Enduring Vitality. How many like dorks do we want to be on?
Well, there's like, what, 3 good ones?
Birds of Paradise is an auto include. I think Noble
Birds-
Hierarch is also a great dork because it produces 3 colors.
Yeah. Are we carrying enough for Halfling?
It really depends on what kind of legends we want to run in this deck. But I don't think it's a good enough card because it doesn't produce pips normally.
There is the thing that like creature decks naturally tend to get shot by OBM, and just halfling starting as a 1/2 is nice, but like it's probably the 3rd one that you want, because like after that it's just like what Mystic, Elves, like,
Deathrite?
Deathrite, and like Deep Shadow.
And Bloom Tender.
Avacyn's Pilgrim too. 'Cause
Yeah.
our deck's gonna be heavy on double white pips with Grand Abolisher and Ranger Captain, because those cards are extremely broken.
So let's do.
interesting.
So it looks like you've got birds. We've got the
Noble,
Hierarch,
yep.
and then Absence Program is a really good include. Are we we're Kinnan and we're in 4 colors, so Bloom Tender, right? What about like? Do you want to do Bloom Tender?
I think Bloom Tender is acceptable at this moment, and we can cut cards later if we
Sure.
need to.
What about Fabro?
I think
Fabro is a little too expensive in my.
I also brought up OBM. I think it's not a dork, but like that's probably a pretty good creature to include in any deck with black.
I like OBM.
I like Orcish Bowmasters as well.
Orcish.
Wow,
Boom.
controversial opinions coming from the the critical EDH team here. We like OBM.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
hold on. We
I
gotta
think
put in
we need to put
the secret
Thrasios-
Denver.
Thrasios-
Oh, the
Or-
secret
yeah.
Denver tech. How can we forget?
What about? I think Jay's bringing up a card that we can't ignore, which is Thrasios Oracle.
Yeah, I agree with
That's a pretty good
Thrasios.
card. It says what, like Scry 2 on it. That's pretty good.
Let's see. There's so many Thasas.
keep typing the name.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
well,
keep typing.
I just don't want to skip past Thassa's Deep Dwelling. Like, it could work.
Oh yeah, because it flickers Thassa on end step.
See, it's still there.
You know, just in case your decon
It's
gets
Thasa's
countered.
apostrophe S.
Is it? Is that how you spell
It sure is.
Holy cow.
It is not Thassa Oracle.
There we go. Well, $17. Can't put a price on that.
If we have Thoracle in the deck, I think we should be playing Tainted Pact and Demonic Consultation.
We might as well stop in it, like in the middle of our creatures and just add those because yeah, there's no question about it.
Especially since, by the end of this video, we will have
200 cards. in this deck
Dynamic.
list.
So a lot of TNT lists. I'm going to kind of pose this question to Jason, and I think he might have an answer. A lot of TNT lists are not running Demonic Consultation; they're running just Tainted Pact. Do you have any opinions about that?
I think most of them are arguing that you need a higher card quality with that. Demonic Consultation isn't a card that is inherently high in card quality, but I think the ability to just 3 mana win the game is great, especially since it's added consistency since you have 2 of those effects with Tainted Pact and Demonic Consultation.
What do you think, Jake?
So I do, as a person who has cut console from some decks, like just because like on its own it's kind of a mediocre card. It's really on like what you're expecting people to do. Like, are you expecting people to just constantly have interaction up? Like, then you're not going to be able to like get under them with a demonic consultation or Thoracle, no matter how hard you try. But like, it's I can see it either way. It's just this is not something, because I think I mentioned like I'm mainly an Azorius player. Like, demonic consultation is not a card I can run in my decks, so I haven't had to think about this for a bit.
I do think that for me this kind of connects with the point that Jason made earlier when we were talking about Avacyn's Pilgrim. I think that if we're putting like Ranger Captain and other silence effects in, I think that makes it easier to resolve a demonic consultation. So if we're running a lot of mana and we're running a lot of way to ensure that our opponents can't interact with us, I wouldn't mind having it, but also I build really greedy lists.
I think it's worth having both personally. I think that's probably makes the most sense. I mean, we're TNK players, and like I play Glarb, I play both effects. There's no reason. I don't see any current reason to not run both.
Yeah, we can always cut it later to add imposter mech.
That is a deep cut, man. Thanks for that.
Are we just moving straight to Title Barracuda? Eric?
Title Barracuda.
Please stop mentioning the fish.
There's a dash here. Ranger Captain.
What about Cutzel?
Ooh, I'm gonna go ahead and put Esper Sentinel in.
Yeah. Esper Sentinel
Esper
is
Sentinel.
such a
And we also mentioned Grand Abolisher.
Gas
Grand Abolisher. I knew I was forgetting.
I think we should also be playing Silence, because you can just silence on
We're not
someone's
there yet.
turn and
We're not there
then
yet.
cast a
We're in creatures.
flashing. I know, but
We're in
we're
creatures.
talking about 2 silences already.
I'll
Just have the third one.
Yeah, Cutzel.
I'll cut Board Upon the Wind since we're not at
Cutzel plus
since we're not
Cutzel plus the Hierarch is actually a pretty good interaction. It lets you draw cards. And Cutzel plus OBM Army kind of lets you draw cards sometimes too.
There's also the interaction of Delighted Halfling with Kutzel, because you can make it uncounterable. It's an uncounterable silence. You know, that's pretty good.
And the final thing is like Cutzel happens to have green in it, so if we're planning to run like deep cuts like Green Sun Zenith, like that can just grab that. You can't grab Grand Abolisher or Ranger Captain with specifically green creature tutors. That's the point, yeah.
Yeah, because you also can't get Ranger Captain with Invasion of Ikoria either.
Unfortunately.
Well, I don't think there's a chance we're running Invasion of Ikoria in this. That's too narrow.
That's really interesting.
Because we're on like Cavern of Souls human type deck, right?
But there's like so many
the
creatures
idea?
you want. That's really interesting.
Cavern of Souls on human is. I guess there are a lot of good humans, but still, like Cavern of Souls occasionally is just a colorless land in your 4-color deck.
Yeah.
Like that could be some. There could be some awkwardness there.
I mean, with this deck, right? If you're really stuck on pips, right? You're just gonna name elf or bird or whatever your dork is, and then that'll create the pip for you. And then later on, when you need the pips, the dorks already produce the pips, and then you just play the cavern as whatever you need it to be. So like a Grand Abolisher, right? Human.
We're also on Smothering Tide as well, so that kind of is a bit of a pip fixer.
We are on Smothering Tide.
All right. Okay. As far as creatures, I'm assuming we're going to do Devoted Druid and Brewmaster, right?
Yeah, let's do Devoted Druid and Brewmaster.
I hate Devoted Druid.
It's so good.
It's fine.
It's
so good. It's super efficient, even with like Swift Reconfiguration and Devoted Druid. That's like basically another Thorical Consult in our deck.
It's a 3-mana win, right?
Yeah, it's efficient.
Swift Reconfiguration is also like occasionally like weird removal or like removing a blocker. Like that came up in a Yuriko game, like just taking Yuriko out of like an attacker so that they couldn't like crack their Doomsday pile. Like it comes up. So
I feel like I would way rather have Valley Floodcaller, Banishing Retraction than
Those are, keep in mind that those are non-creature spells, and you're used to playing a non-creature deck in which you can't really pull off the creature combos. This has the space to do a soul creature combo with no non-creature casts.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think that's the value of this, and plus it's resilient where once it resolves, it's just a dork, right? And then if it goes to yard, that's really where you want it. And you can put it into yard at any time in response to anything. And you kind of just have to protect the Brewmaster at that point.
I'm convinced.
We also mentioned Swift Reconfiguration as like another A+B with Druid.
Yeah.
Do we want to be on that and Machine Gods?
I think Machine Gods is a little too much
That's
for
a
a
deep
4-color deck.
Yeah. Well, which is interesting because
Swift.
Machine Gods is colorless.
I understand that, but it's also
That goes back
a
to the point of
4-drop,
the-
right? Like
Yeah,
Swift is just so much better.
I agree.
It also has Flash, right? It's got Flash. It's the Flash meta that's pretty broken.
That's okay. That is a good point. It is way easier to net infinite mana, like go from like 0 to 100 with Devoted Druid, and like
Imagine a
Swift.
world where someone's trying to resolve their Thassa's deconsult, and they deconsult their deck away. No one has any interaction. The last thing is Thassa's on the stack, like the ETB, and then you have Devoted Druid. In response to the Thassa's ETB, you Swift reconfigure it, and then you already have Thrasios. You go for the win on top.
Oh, that makes sense. We can like we can let people fight over like an overloaded Psych Rift. As someone's like prepping to like make a win attempt and still be able to just play on top of them in a way that we wouldn't be able to if it was on Valley Floodcaller. That's a really compelling argument.
I also thought about reconfiguration as a way to like protect key pieces. Like you don't like Bloom Tender is very fragile. High Phase also not a particularly like tough creature. Like it's going to get shot by OBM, and like OBM, the strongest OBM is the one that is not a creature. Like what are you supposed to do about that? So like I can see. I believe if you look at Swift configuration, it just says that it's a vehicle and loses card types, not abilities.
Right.
So it's still an OBM, but now it's not a creature, so it can't get shot down by opposing OBMs, and like that's extremely powerful.
That's crazy.
I think a thing that's great too is that it can protect our Consecrated Sphinx.
Wait, oh my word!
I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of him. He's fully on board. There we go.
What are they going to do? Vandal Blast our Sphinx?
It also generates like pseudo haste too. So if you actually really need the mana, you can put it on your Bloom Tenor, and then you can just tap it right away. That's
'cause it's a
a
vehicle.
perk of having Swift reconfiguration with Devoted Druid is that it turns your Devoted Druid into a vehicle, so you can just tap it right away without summoning Sickness.
Sounds like we want more than one copy of this card.
Yeah, we need it to protect the Sphinx. Put it on the Devoted Druid.
Does Machine Gods have Flash?
No. Machine Gods is cool, but like it's to me that's like a 2-color or a 3-color card, like Jason was saying. I think we're so deep into 4 colors, we just have better options.
Can is Imposter Mech able to go infinite with Devoted Druid?
Not with yours because it only copies opponent creatures.
Oh,
Yeah.
The weird edge case with Imposter Mech is that if your opponent has a Devoted Druid and you jam down a Cutzel or something like that, or not Cutzel, Grand Abolisher,
yeah.
you jam down a Grand Abolisher effect, they don't activate their Devoted Druid and kill it. Then you play Imposter Mech, and oops, you have infinite green. But that's like such an edge case that I don't think it's really worth.
I think it's too cute of an interaction to actually
I
put in
do
the
think
deck.
there's actually kind of an argument, even though like Machine's God FC is kind of expensive. This deck does tend to like just producing that 4 mana. And another creature deck you're pretty guaranteed to run into is Kinnan, and just stealing one of their random creatures like a Nyxbloom can just enable a lot.
Or stealing Kinnan.
Or just Kinnan himself. And like Kinnan then just taps for 2 blue because he still has his ability.
Speaking of copying things, even if Machine God's Effigy is maybe not the right card, what about Clever Impersonator?
Oh, that card is great. I think we should be playing it because it can also copy like Tithe the Aristic.
I'm so low on Phyrexian Metamorph right now. I think that Clever Impersonator is just a straight upgrade, and the fact that it's like $1 is hilarious to me.
Someone said Ristic Study and putting it in.
Oh, Ristic Study. Yeah, that's a pretty good card.
That's not a creature. We're in the creature section. Should we have a discussion about Leveler?
Mystic Remorse.
No.
So Leveler, you can transmute your One Ring into your Leveler for 1 mana.
All right. Anyway, I'm gonna timestamp this as the Leveler conversation.
Oh, we can get a Lazatep Quarry, exile it from our graveyard, create a token copy. Okay, so back to where we started. Kutzel.
I think Kutzel's easy in.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's get
Especially
in
if we decide to play stuff like Eldritch or Birthing Pod, we can
For some
Eldritch
reason-
into them.
For some reason, people get super triggered about the double white on Ranger Captain and Grand Abolsher. When you play those cards, people are like, "Oh, it's these effects that like I can't do anything about." No one seems to care about Kutzel.
yeah.
Like Kutzel's like almost as good, but it's just I don't know. It's like it's a cat. Like no one cares.
It's a warrior.
You can argue that's even easier.
The Gila card.
You can argue that's even easier to cast just because like green white is just branching out in more of your colors. Like it's just fairly easy to slap down. Like I'm honestly surprised that like people like don't care about Kutzel. Like I see a Kutzel like on a Sisse board, it's like this is really bad. We need to crack this like right now.
Yeah, it's super good. It is legendary as well, which is super nice. Which I mean, also I think defends the Delighted Halfling inclusion. Okay, so right now we're at 17 creatures.
We got Sphinx, right?
We've got Sphinx in there.
Seedborn.
Seedborn. Oh, heck
we can't forget that.
Let me see. What other big boys gets thrown into like super heavy?
Or let's just think about the creatures that we're missing, right? And if we can't think of anything, we can just move on. And if we think about it later, we can add it.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
I did want to bring up Deathrite. I kind of mentioned it. Do you think it's worth running here? Because it seems pretty easy to cast.
I like it. Yeah, I like it because you can also cast it off the black pip too if necessary, and then it generates any color given that there's lands, but there's always lands because fetch lands are very prevalent in this format.
And as niche as it is, it does give you a way of interacting with breach decks.
It doesn't work with Kinnan though, and that's maybe a consideration that we might cut for a different dork.
I think I'm fine with it not interacting with Kinnan.
I think we have plenty of things that do.
It just makes any color, which
Kinnan
is great.
isn't our commander. We're not, as much as we're probably going to find it in a lot of games. We shouldn't expect to have it in every game.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Okay, so let's kind of like I mean we're already at 75 cards.
Oof.
How
are we
going to
fit 30 instances?
How many creatures are we on?
We're on 19.
Okay.
Let's start. We still got some groundwork to cover. We haven't put a single counterspell in yet.
I think we should before we do that.
Sorceries.
Let's hit the enchantment package because that seems pretty accessible and pretty easy. So we've got Fish, Ristic, Smothering Tithe. I'm a big Sylvan Library enjoyer as much as I dislike the card. I think it's good enough to get you over the hill in a lot of bad situations, and it fixes your mulligans a lot. I think Jason might have an altered opinion to that.
I think with Tymna, you don't need Sylvan Library in this deck. In my opinion, I don't think you need to. We're also playing like Consecrated Sphinx, which isn't usually seen in Tymna Thrasios, so
I think a point of demerit of Sylvan Library is that it generates an unusual amount of heat because people are like, hey, this is technically a necro effect, and suddenly you're taking every single stray on the board, and then your Sylvan's just like shut down like immediately. It's like life is a resource, but like this burns through your life like really fast if you're actually keeping all your cards.
I'm not opposed to like keeping it out. I think it's fine. But that also brings up the necropotence conversation. I think there's a good argument for it. I think there's also probably a really great argument, which is similar to the Sylvan Library argument, as to why not to play it.
I don't think our deck should be built around necropotence, right? I think this deck is trying to outgrind and outlast every deck in the game with just pure value. So I think trying to turbo out a necro isn't really adhering to what we want to do. Usually supporting cards for necro are like Culling the Weak, Rite of Flame, super like cheap rituals and stuff like that. We don't have the red for the Underworld Breach to convert super efficiently either. The only thing we can really do is flash out a Flash Enabler and Thoracle Consult, really. I don't think it's that good.
Yeah, also mana dorks are like pretty bad if you're trying to just like win off necro. They don't do anything, so a lot of your deck just you're really digging hard for Born and nothing else can really help you there.
Theoretically, do still have room for Corn Crossroads.
All right. Anyway. Okay, so that brings me to the next point of consideration, which are the enchantment copiers.
Copy enchantment.
I think copy enchantment is almost an auto include.
I honestly think we can leave those out for now, and if we have room later, we can add it. I think
like goldfish are going to grow to the size of their tank. I think if we put them in now, we might. I would prefer to find room for them now, which is kind of why I went to the enchantment space before we did anything else.
sure we can add it now, and if we need to cut it, it's fine.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But I think Mermaid's a bit too deep.
Here's what I think we should do. I think we should start with adding copy enchantment. Then I think 32 lands is too many.
I agree.
That was just the basic land package where I think it's on like Arid Mesa and stuff that we can just pull out, and like City of Traders we don't need.
Let's get rid of that.
Can we go back to
shrine.
the Let's go back to the enchantments and just finish out that, and we can go to the lands.
So uniquely TNT is a creature heavy deck, and a card I've seen like thrown on TNT a lot is like Survival of the Fittest, because this is one of the few decks that both runs a lot of high density of creatures and has Tymna draw and Thrasios draw power to be like, hey, I don't mind like discarding this I don't know, like this dork, let me just grab a Thrasios Oracle and just like make everyone like panic.
I think I second the Survival of the Fittest, but for a different reason. We can just discard a random dork or whatever. We can find a Devoted Druid, and then we can bin the Devoted Druid and find a Hazel's Brewmaster, and conveniently we can cast out the Hazel's Brewmaster with the Devoted Druid already in our bin.
And that's only one spell, so like you only trigger like Rhystic once, like trap everything. So like you're basically forcing an interaction point like immediately, yeah.
Pretty good.
I think survival is also really hard to deal with, or like if you drop an early survival, people are going to stare at you and go, okay, anyway. And like it's not an immediate threat where they might consider swan songing like a Rhystic Study or something earlier. And so, yeah, to Jason's point, it can just sit there, and then when you have the pieces or the requisite pieces or mana, you can just go for it on that.
Yeah, I think it's a strong combo piece in that like you can't cast an Adnaz and then say, look, you guys can look at my hand. I don't have anything. Just let this Adnaz resolve.
Well, I mean, if they let the Adnaz resolve, your hand is revealed. So I think that's okay.
As opposed to Survival of the Fittest, I think that there's a lot of worlds where you just have the mana on turn 1 or 2, and then you show someone your Swan Song, your Talisman, and your land, and then you're like, look, this isn't a threat. You'll see whatever I tutor for, and you can just deal with it then.
Yeah, exactly. And from my perspective, playing against the deck, it's really hard for me to even argue against myself to counter the survival because I'm like, it's a problem for later, just as you said. I think the next thing I want to talk about with enchantments, and probably the last thing, unless I'm missing something, is sort of exploration effects.
Oh,
I'm pretty big on those. I can see why the deck wouldn't want to run those, but Jason's going to roll his eyes because I know how he feels about those. But
Jason prefers burgeoning effects.
Well, I actually do really like burgeoning in this deck, because if you're trying to be the Rhystic deck and sit there, you're going to end up with lands in your hand that you can't play on someone else's turn, and then just dropping those lands seems good.
I think I like it in the sense of it makes it difficult for the table to appropriately threat assess us, but in a way that doesn't ring alarm bells. but also, I mean, like then we wouldn't have to cut any lands. We could stay on Talon Gates.
We don't need to be on 32.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I think we're cutting down to 28 at least.
20,
in my
29
opinion.
maybe.
I think probably like 28. 29 seems like a few. Like 27, 28 seems okay.
Yeah.
Exploration. I mean, I have a feeling that your opinion on this card is a little colored by the fact that you usually play a commander to let you play lands off the top of your deck.
We
and
can
at
add
that
him.
point,
We can add him in. We can add him in.
that is a conversation for a different time.
Well, I was just initiating a discussion about the types of effects and the class of card. I'm not making the argument that exploration needs to be in this deck. I do think burgeoning is probably the better option if we were to include one.
I mean, there's also, I don't foresee having mana issues, like because the mana base is very strong. But like, there's Dryad if we really want that sort of effect on a creature, I guess. But
I don't see mana issues, but if we have more mana than everyone else, I think that's probably a good thing.
can't be a bad thing, yeah.
I think that if we add in burgeoning, then I think we also probably want to add in Mirror Maid because that just increases our chances of playing that kind of passive, just wait and see what happens, and then be the last person to put a win on the stack. But also, I don't know, like the deck is good enough, it already has so much card draw. I don't know how many cards, so let's say...
Lands are more things that untap with Seedborn Muse, and I think that's ultimately one of the main game plans is to do that.
I personally don't think we need burgeoning or exploration effects in this deck. I think the card quality is so high that you don't need it, and you're already making like billions of mana with Cradle anyways.
Oh, that's true.
So, like,
But if Cradle ends up in your hand on someone else's turn, how do you get it onto the field?
it's fine. Just play it on your next turn. Or
Well, what
just
if we don't get a
or
next
just
turn?
Drop right into it.
What if we don't get another turn?
Well, the burgeoning puts the lands into play anyways, and then I don't think that's good enough.
It's you just discard it to LED and then create a 4/4 copy of your guy's Cradle with Hashaton.
Oh man.
You just said something very interesting. Can you elaborate on that?
No. Okay, so...
How about this? Can you throw burgeoning in the sideboard, and we can revisit this later?
Yeah, we can do that.
Aren't there other cards that we also like tabled?
I'm sure.
Burgeoning, exploration, Mirror Maid.
Yeah.
I think into the sideboard are fine.
Yeah, probably just add it to main board and move it.
That way they can get a taste of what it's like.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're done with enchantments.
I
So
agree.
we want to try to cut some lands.
Which one's going first?
City of Traders.
City of Traders.
Wow, that was really quick.
It doesn't help us cast like either commander basically on like the base level, and then also it dies for some reason.
I mean, it helps you cast them the second time.
Okay. There shouldn't be a second time.
Forbidden Orchard.
That shit needs to go.
I like Forbidden.
Shut
Orchard.
up.
I
Shut
like
up, dummy.
Forbidden
No
Orchard.
one asked.
I hate Godless Shrine. Can we get rid of that
Yes,
first?
that needs to go.
All right. Get this pagan land out of here. Hollowed Fountain.
I think it's a keep in blue farm, but I'm not sure that we need this. I think we need Breeding Pool instead of
Breeding Pool's also there.
Instead of Hollowed Fountain.
We could look at cutting Shocklands once we have a better idea what the color distribution is gonna look
Yeah.
like. But I think there's an obvious cut in the Talon Gates. in
Yeah,
there.
let's get rid of
Talon
Talon
Gates.
Shifting Woodland should stay, right?
I have a love-hate relationship with the card. I play Rog Thras, and it's amazing in that deck because you just buy back all your combos because they're like A+B combos. But I think in a 4-color deck, it's too hard on you to have a Shifting Woodland in your deck because it requires you to play it on turn 2 and have already a forest in play. So at that point, you're making double green pips, and I don't think that's really good for you.
I think there's also a point where it doesn't kind of work with some combos. Like, you can make a copy of Brewmaster, but it doesn't get the ETB, and Druid just dies, so you just stone rain yourself. So,
Well,
combos just straight up don't work.
It kind of does work because if it's not that turn, like say you had the Shifting Woodlands before, you can swing with it, and then it makes the token, right?
Yeah, because Brewmaster is attack and
Oh, yeah.
the battle.
In the case you wanted to reanimate that, yeah, from functionally, that would
I
work.
It can
think
become a Consecrated Sphinx.
We need to stop talking about this card.
All right, yeah, I do
I think
agree.
we can sideboard the Shifting Woodland.
I
in my
really like
opinion.
Tarnished Citadel over Forbidden.
To be honest,
What's our land count right now?
we are at 28
28.
after cut, so I think we can just move.
I
come back
think
to
I
this
think
later.
we're fine with
Yeah,
this,
we're
and we
pretty
can move on.
I think the number right now is more important than the specific lands. That's probably the last piece we'll tune is just which lands we need specifically.
we're getting rid of Temple
I think the sorcery list should be pretty short. We could do that next.
Yeah, I think Demonic Tutor,
Demonic Imp.
Demonic Tutor, Imperial Seal, and Finale of Devastation are cards that we should be playing.
I really like Eldritch Evolution here.
I suppose is like to grab. Thrasios just grabs everything if you want to throw him into the wood chipper.
Do you want
That's
to
all
be
he's
on,
good for.
Do you want to be on Mnemonic Betrayal?
Okay, so this is one of the big points I wanted to bring up. I was asking Jason this the other night. I said, do you think that TNT lists are coping by not running Mnemonic Betrayal and or Culling Ritual?
Yes.
Do you think they're coping by not running them?
Yeah, I think so. I think these are great cards for you. They give you a different axis to work on than just normal Tymna Thrasios. At least with my experience with playing Tymna Thrasios all that long time ago, like 3 years ago now. The deck
one I spell correctly?
the deck was stuck with just grinding versus Culling Writ, right? It gives you a burst of mana, and then Mean Bet just like instantly wins you the game late game because of the density of tutors and win concept.
The spells also work really well together.
Yeah.
So if you manage to find both, you can rip a Culling Writ, and then you can Meme Bet after, set yourself up way above everyone else. And even if you don't have it on those cards, then you just have tons of rocks. You might have like a couple fishes, things like that.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a little awkward that Thrasios will be a victim of Culling Ritual, but the fail case is just you sweep everyone's board and just throw that mana to Thrasios, which is not an awful fail case.
Usually you're blowing up like signets and stuff too, so you can just Meme Bet and then recast the Thrasios using the extra stuff.
And I think these cards are really, really powerful in getting the deck over the hill of winning the game. And in other videos, we've talked about TNT and its abysmal conversion rate in specifically Snowy Summit, which is a tournament that happened earlier this month. And I didn't see a lot of those decks on these cards because you don't have that exclusivity to sort of convert into
100%
a win.
agree.
Yeah, I think it is a very versatile card that puts you ahead. It's good in those like games where everyone's playing like really, really fast. You're against a rock side that like throws out a ton of rocks, or it's good super late in the game when everyone
It's good
has
against
a bunch of
Kinnan.
decks and
It's
stuff.
good against Magda.
Yeah, it seems really good.
I think we should also be playing Imperial Seal in this deck, right?
Oh, yeah, that
And we
would
can
be
just
really
crack it off Thrasios or Timna, and then you can cast your value engine or
Oh,
whatever
yeah, we
you're
love
trying to
top
tutor.
deck tutors. Were there any other sorceries you mentioned that I missed?
I liked
Jason?
Eldritch Evolution, but I think we kind of paused to
yeah.
talk about these cards.
Finale is
Yeah,
a
Finale
win
was the other
condition after you make infinite mana. Usually it's cleaner than Thoracle because you don't have to empty your library.
I also see
to
a
do
world
that.
where we have Finale in hand, we Culling Writ, and our Druids in yard, and then we just use that mana to Finale the Brewmaster.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at our creature package. If we Eldritch Evolution, Thrasios, what can we get?
Everything except Seaborn Muse and Sphinx in this deck.
And then if we Eldritch Tymna for some reason, we can get Seedborn Muse.
It's also great to just Eldritch Devoted Druid and some Hazel's Brewmaster.
Oh yeah, I didn't quite think about it.
Sounds like it's going in.
I think Neoform and like the Spellseeker Neoform line is a bit too narrow. And
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
it's
super high on that.
It's too cute in this deck, right?
Neoform alone is not awful. I'm actually pretty high on that card, even though like it's a little awkward occasionally. Like 2 doesn't quite get to where we want to be. But,
Yeah, I think
well,
Neoform
2
doesn't
gets
hit enough
us
targets.
to Grand Abolisher.
Well, so like Neoform has to match, right? So
No, I mean like it gets a dork into
Grand Abolisher or Thrasios into Ranger Captain Cutzel. Yeah.
I think this is a deck that you can't let Neoform resolve. I think with Eldritch Evolution, we can say like, oh, I'll just get like a dork or something. I think if we Neoform, like everyone's gonna know.
The
Like,
specificity of Neoform really hurts it in multiple aspects. It hurts it in that we have to get something specific, and then it's going to be, well, your opponents go, well, I know that he has a silence effect on this or whatever, and I know that that's what they're going to go get. So if we do Eldritch, then maybe it's a bit more open, and you can say, well, I could get this, and use it as a negotiating tool for like them to not counter it, maybe.
The other thing that's I think Eldritch is infinitely times better than Neoform too, because usually you're making a lot of mana off of Cradle, which is green. And you can just cast the Eldritch with that green, but you can't do that with Neoform, and we're kind of like tight on the blue pips, right? Like we've got double blue and Consecrated Sphinx, Oracle, and we don't really want to use the blue pips either. We want to just keep them for our counter spells.
Do we want to be on Crop Rot?
Yes.
Gotta get that Alchemist Refuge. Baby.
Oh, let's make sure we have the Emergence Zone in this thing.
Ooh, okay.
I think it's there. I think that's in my default land package. If it's not, then I added that land package before I added Emergence Zone. So
The Dark Ages.
I think is that it on the right?
It's not in there.
Oh, it's
What's
not
right
in
next to
there.
Gemstone?
That's a Cradle, and then
No, on the other side.
right is a Hollowed Fountain.
Oh, okay. My bad.
A card that's definitely gonna stay in. Is it just all E's? It is, huh?
Somebody went to school.
Jason, you brought up Counterspells. How controlly do we want to be playing this list?
I think we want to have a high density of interaction because we're trying to play as long as possible in this game.
So we definitely want Fierce,
Fierce,
Let's start with
Fierce, Force,
yes.
Fluster.
Force of Vigor.
Anyway,
Heuristic.
I have really been liking Misdirection. I don't know how it would feel in this list specifically, but I'm liking it as a protect our own thing sort of counterspell, because we have a lot of our own stuff that we need to resolve, and maybe we don't need it, but I don't know.
So the whole thing about Misdirection and all those pitch spells is actually another thing where I want to talk about Neoform is like it is a blue spell in a 4-color deck where you can pitch that, and if you want to get even more ambitious with stuff like Commandeer, which random decks are just throwing in nowadays, like
I think
increase your consistency with that if that's
Commandeer is a little bit deep because you need 2 blue spells for it, and we're in 4-color, but Misdirection is kind of the same cost as like Force of Will.
Well, yeah, that's my. I only play 2-color decks, thing going through like 60% of my deck is blue, so Commandeer is basically free.
The other 40% is lands colorless. Misdirection.
You any thoughts on that?
I personally don't like Misdirection or Commandeer in high color decks. I think we just have better cards to run.
Okay. Are we missing? We're missing Flusterstorm. I think
Mental
Swansong.
Misstep is also great, and
Of course.
Swan Song.
Yeah.
Mental Misstep. Mindbreak Trap.
Yeah, for games that go long. Yeah, trap.
Something I've been liking more and more recently is just Veil of Summer, right? You can actually beat Flusterstorm using Veil of Summer, which is actually pretty cool.
I can't. Yeah, Veil of Summer is insane. Speaking of Veil of Summer, a card that constantly comes up with Veil of Summer for me is Elvish Spirit Guide, and we're not on Elvish Spirit Guide right now. I think it's kind of easy to see it both ways in which we run Elvish Spirit Guide, but it kind of does turbo us out early if we get it. We can get a dork out and like maybe a rock.
It's a lot of our dorks.
It's. I mean, this deck is very heavy
I
green,
could see
so
it.
yeah.
I could see it.
And yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah.
Because you can represent a Veil of Summer with, well, you don't even represent it. You can have a Veil of Summer and a Spirit Guide in your hand, and then you go, cool, I'm at the end of my rope. Oh, anyway, here's a Spirit Guide and Veil of Summer, and then people don't see that.
Or Spirit Guide Boseiju with your legend in play. Bam, you hit the blue farm player's breach. They weren't even counting on that.
It's definitely not bad.
that has happened a non-zero amount of times to me. Okay, let's see.
We got Swan Song. Do we get Misstep?
We got Swan Song,
Okay, Misstep's there.
Misstep.
Do we need to be on like any of the 1-mana counter spells like Dispel or Miscast or?
Do you want to be on Deadly Rock?
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so. Rollick's so good.
The trio of Misstep.
What about Obscuring Haze?
That's a good card.
I'm joking, by
I
the
think
way.
we should start with hidden
That's a good card.
strings.
You brought it up. I'm doubling down.
You brought it.
It's free, guys. It's free. We can offer. You can't refuse it.
Doubling. I don't
Hey,
want to be on
pitches the
offer.
force of vigor.
Do we want to be on offer? You can't refuse.
No.
No.
Oh, it's
That card sucks.
yeah. Sometimes you just need one more counterspell in another counterspell battle. More often than not, when someone offers a spell I have, it gives me one more counter.
I would rate
counterspell battle.
misdirection higher than offer.
Oh wow! I think
I
agree
might
with
even
that.
rate strict serenade higher than offer.
Holy
We're
cow.
not gonna play Strict
We're
Serenade.
gonna-
No, I don't think
I'm
we
good.
should. I'm not making the argument for it,
Yeah.
but I in a lot of the lists, Eric and I were talking about this in our Hashathon video. That deck gets blown out by strict serenade. It does. It counters LED. Counters shortcut.
It does.
Oh my God.
What are
Dude,
your thoughts on this shortcut?
if they're on 3 fairy?
I have never had my shortcut get countered. It's such a does nothing card. Like, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
I'm just playing it for colors.
I think a important instant we're missing is Court of Calling.
Ooh.
That card gives you so much flexibility. It's an instant for some reason, and you can use like Thrasios and Tymna as like almost pseudo mana because you can convoke by tapping them.
The triple green is a lot less intimidating because you can Thrasios counts for one of the green pretty much all the time there.
Yeah, I think decks with this oftentimes struggle with having too much green. So I think cards that are able to take advantage of that and transition us into the other part of our decks that we're having a hard time accessing is really helpful. I think that's part of the reason why I love being able to play cards like Eldritch Evolution and Finale of Devastation.
Real question: are we playing Dark Ritual? I think so.
I am a Dark Rit gamer. I like it.
What does Dark Rit help us cast?
So it helps us
Consecrated
cast
Sphinx.
all of our rocks,
Rocks,
right?
yeah.
And then we can more easily turn to Rhystic Studies, Smothering Tithe with Dark Rit, right? Because Dark Rit, land.
You know what Dark Ritual helps you cast?
Yeah.
Opposition Agent.
Oh, true.
Thoughts on Opposition Agent?
I really like it. I do kind of like Scheming Symmetry because I'm more of a political player. I'm kind of leaning into those angles where I don't really have a problem scheming even without Oppo.
Yeah.
And with Oppo, it does work even more.
We do really like top deck tutors in this list. What do you think about Scheming Symmetry?
I can already tell his answer.
I mean, I want to hear this.
Jason's eyes are doing the talking,
I'm-
but no.
Say it into
Finish
two
the thought.
microphones.
I'm good on Scheming Symmetry. I think it's a okay card that you need if you're not playing that high of card quality. But in
Hey,
this deck, it's great.
in our top 4 game, it kept us from dying.
Hey, okay.
You heard it from
okay.
Jason.
And
Ooh,
even,
wow,
even though I
this-
tutored for the wrong thing.
This card worked this one time. We should use that as analysis.
it's a
Scheming
tutor. How
Symmetry,
bad can it be?
It's the Hashathon of sorceries.
That's a take that definitely just came into existence like this moment.
I don't think those words have ever been said in that order before.
I'm adding it.
Yeah,
right.
I think Oppo is a good call here. I don't like things like Douthie right now. I think Douthie is a total misread of the meta and where things are at.
Oppo is just great at just jamming people. Like it just exists enough to like just interrupt people, and at the same time, like every other stack piece, like it's dangerous to just remove haphazardly.
I've definitely run into situations in T and K where if you squint, Opposition Agent is kind of like a Grand Abolisher, where either there's like a Magda or like a Sisay who they were planning on activating to like, whatever happened, but they just weren't able to get it in time for your Oppo.
We kind of forgot about some stuff.
You want to put Sisay in here?
No.
Oh.
We forgot about Archivist of Ogma,
Ooh.
which
Fairy Mastermind with Kinnan and Smothering Tide killed the table. So I think we should.
Donnie is a
that.
decent backup option for Basalt because you can Donnie, Kinnan, Grim Monolith.
Yeah.
Fairy Mastermind is just a good card on its own right now with just how grindy everything is. Like it triggers pretty much consistently throughout turn cycles. Like
Oh God, how do you spell fairy? Is it
E-R-I-E.
Oh Jesus. Okay, hang on. Okay, F
A-E-R-I-E. Fairy.
Oh, there's so
Do you
many.
edit these videos?
No.
Okay.
Fairy Mastermind, Archivist of
Ogma.
Ogma.
You can just type Archivist of, and I'm sure it'll find it.
Just keep the time in mind.
I like long form stuff.
I mean, like, we have an event after this, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
We're almost
Just
there.
depends on how fast you drive.
All right, we're at 98. That's Logan driving. Come on.
Come on.
Come on. We're at 98 cards. I think a good way is
We get Delny?
I don't know about Delny.
What do you mean? It's
We're-
Delny deck, man.
I think we're too like low on the instance. Maybe it's just because I play Blue Farm and I play 31 instance, but
But what are we missing?
Exploration,
It doesn't really
burgeoning.
feel like anything. Like
Really?
unless you want to like run like the counterspells that are only there to hit other counterspells, like Dispel, Miscast,
fair
that
point,
sort of
fair
thing.
point.
Like the card quality is good, like, and also you don't need to fight as many counterspell wars when so many of your stuff is creatures and there's
Gotcha.
only so much interaction.
Should we cross compare this list with other TNT lists?
I think that's good for another video, but we should try to finish this out.
sure.
I think Delny's. I'm gonna make the argument for it because it is a backup for Kin and Basalt.
I like Delny in this deck too because it doubles up on the Fairy Mastermind, the Archivist we
the
just
Tymna,
added. Yeah, the Tymna too.
Esper Sentinel.
Lotho. Can we please
Oh,
play
yeah,
this card?
Lotho. Yeah, that
Can we
one.
please
That's
play
the
this
one.
card?
It will double up on Lotho too.
Yeah.
It will.
So that's 100 cards, but I don't think we need to go over this list a whole lot more. We can all go over this list together in the future. I think
We should do a part 2. You know,
we could at least revisit this for
Yeah.
sure. We could finish out the list on our own time. We could probably play it some and go, okay, well, here's part 2. Here's the changes we're making, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Any final thoughts, Jay?
So I don't know, man. Like I play Shorika. I'm just thinking, like, man, out of time is looking really good here.
Yeah, I do think it's vulnerable to all those creature hate and stuff like that. But at least we're running Mnemonic Betrayal and Calling Writ, where a lot of TNT decks are not.
Yeah, I also agree. I think they're great cards that push you over the edge, which Tymna Thrasios usually it's hard to push over the edge without crazy cards like Consecrated Sphinx.
I think there's a bit of like getting lost in the sauce that a lot of TNT players like, oh, we're a creature deck, like we don't want to ever sweep up our board. Like that's I think there's stigma with like Culling Ritual, but Culling Ritual, hot take here, is a good card. So
I don't think that's a hot take.
like super hot take. Like
I really want this card in here now. I don't know what changed since the last time we talked about it, but we're at
You want burgeoning in?
yeah, we're at 29 lands. I don't know why, but I really want it in now.
All right. Well, you've heard our take on this deck for the past how long? Almost an hour.
Oh, nice. That was an
So
hour?
if you have any thoughts on the deck, please leave us a comment. We're not playing it tonight, but I guess we could probably say, like, what are we playing tonight? What are we doing?
Oh yeah, so we're going to the level 7 weekly tournament. I'm planning on playing a Kinnan that I kind of threw together over the course of the last 24 hours. We'll see how it does.
I'm also playing Kinnan.
God, you guys.
I think it's a great deck right now. I've been talking to Evan Pierce or Freedom Waffle, and I think we both agree on that. The deck is just crazy right now with how it leverages the copy effects to copy enchantments, because you just want to draw cards and then you can convert that super easily because Kinnan makes more mana than almost every other deck in the format.
It is the big mana deck of the format.
100%.
I'm going to play my Rog Sai list, which is now Wrong Sai or Rog Cope. I don't know what it is. Cope Sai. I have Wrong Sai is
Wrong
probably
Sai, that's really clever.
So instead of running the Artist Talent and Waste Not, I mean I am still running Waste Not, but now I'm full on the Opus Thief style plan where Consecrated Sphinx and Notion Thief, and try to wheel people with those effects out and try to protect those wheels. I'm also on Copy Enchantment, Mirror Maid, Clever Impersonator, that type of stuff where I'm like, I don't want to play Kinnan because I've already got the two boys playing Kinnan right now, and I just want to play Rogsai and then be like, I'm not playing Nas, guys. I'm just playing mid-range Rogsai. What do you want from me?
Guys, I'm not playing Nas. Don't hit me.
I'm literally, if we're in a match together, I'm literally going to say he was talking on the drive here about lying to people about not being on Adnos. I'm just thinking through it goes, oh, guys, he does this every time.
So I'm actually going to be trying out a Marnius build for this weekly. It's a deck that I'm excited about, mainly just because it's kind of just Shorkai with black with it. Like you have the same win cons. You're trying to make mana, and you get to sit behind a lot of really strange value engines and just kind of chill out and just find your windows and just go for it.
Is Shorkai in the 99?
No comment on that one.
Is Tivit in the 99?
Don't we need to go?
We're all going together, and this is not getting released before we go.
Oh no!
Oh man, Shorkai makes a token. That's all I'm saying.
Tivit makes a few tokens. Anyway, yeah, that's it for us for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it or you got something out of it. Look for future updates on this deck, I guess, and we have definitely all the cards, so we're gonna put it together, and some of us will run it at some point.
Yeah, at least one of us will play it once.
Yep.
And that's a critical EDH promise.
That is our guarantee. So with that, that's the video, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, have a
Thank
good one,
you.
guys.